Welcome to the Grow and Expand with S podcast, where we break through limitations, we heal from within, and we step into our most expansive, most fulfilled, and happiest lives. And any journey of growth and expansion will challenge you. There will be times that you are overwhelmed and lonely, and where you can't see the forest from the trees. And that's why at the very heart of this podcast was my intention to give you the connection, the community, the tools, the practices, and the conversations that you need to bridge the gap from wherever it is you find yourself today to wherever it is you are headed. And for today's episode, we are going to delve deep into the world of inner healing and inner child healing specifically. And I am so excited about this episode because this body of work has single-handedly changed my entire life. It has changed so many of my clients' lives and every community that I become a part of, and where I see growth and powerful women speaking up, standing in their beliefs and their truth system and making change and revolutionizing the way things are done. There is always inner child healing and inner healing work involved. And so it just lights me up, this type of work. It is a body of work that whether you've got a goal or a vision or not, I would recommend absolutely anyone and everyone would benefit from. It is so profound. And after this episode, you're going to understand why I am so excited about inner child healing and what makes it so profound. So inner child healing and inner healing, kind of what is it? I suppose that's the first question if you're not familiar with it. In essence, it says that when we were children, things happened. We were hurt, we were abandoned, we were rejected, we were cut down, we were put into a box, we were told how it was expected for us to be, we weren't celebrated how we were. Things happened, right? Experiences happened. And a lot of them were also good. And those are the memories we try to recreate, right? And those are the things we remember fondly and beautifully. Tick. A lot of them were incredibly painful. A lot of them were incredibly frightening. A lot of them were incredibly confusing. And when that happened, when we were children, we did not have the emotional or the cognitive ability to feel, regulate, process, make sense of, and release, because we went through the full cycle of what was happening, so that we could release those hurts, release those wounds, release those traumas, release those emotions that was so heavy and frightening. We didn't have the tools to do that. We didn't have the mind to make sense of it. And so in essence, it just kind of got trapped in time, is how I think about it. It got stuck in time. A piece of that, Sharné, in those really big key moments, are still there in me. And they drive how I think, what I believe about myself and others, what I think of myself and others, what I believe of myself and others, how I love myself and others, how I show up for myself and others. They drive that subconsciously, or more like in our bodies, in our nervous system, every day of the week. And those that are kind of frozen in time, or where it is frozen in time, every experience in the future that is similar will bring that up and activate it again, right? And so if we had parents back then that could co-regulate with us and that could show us through them embodying it, that it's not so big, it's not so scary, or perhaps it is so big, and perhaps it is so scary. But let's feel it. Let's acknowledge it. Let's release it. Let's regulate through it, right? Those skills that wasn't mirrored to us as children, because I think a lot of the knowledge is only really coming out now, how to do this effectively. It wasn't offered to us. And sad to say, but majority of those really deep wounds and those real deep pains of abandonment, of rejection, of not being good enough, that comes from those that we loved the most in childhood. And that's not to say that we need to judge and blame and resent, and that's just to say that those moments happened for us, and they caused pain, and they caused overwhelm, and they caused loneliness, and they caused disconnect, and they caused confusion. And instead of knowing how to work through them on an emotional level, we didn't know, and neither did those around us. And so however they kind of would have dealt with it, we ended up dealing with it ourselves. And that's kind of like shoving it in the boot or blocking it off, building a wall. And now that we're older, the fears underneath those stories and experiences and the emotions associated with it is still driving our behaviors, and it is keeping us from the things that we want and desire the most. And healing and inner child healing essentially says you go back into a moment in time and you meet yourself, your beautiful, sparkly, amazing, wonderful, beautiful self in that moment, in that big, scary, painful, overwhelming, lonely moment. And you give to yourself what you didn't get at the time. You acknowledge the feelings. You don't try to hold back or reframe or talk it away or just flick to the positive or whatever coping strategies we've all developed. We all do this. The beauty of inner child healing is you allow that part of you to express that moment, and you're in that moment with them, and you give whatever it is that was needed at the time to that version of you now. Does she need to be seen? Does she need to be heard? Does she need to feel? Does she just need to be? Does she need to rest? Does she need to be told she's worthy? Does she need to be told that she's beautifully accepted just the way that she is, and she doesn't have to push and push and push to prove something, to prove her worthiness? Perhaps she needs to hear she's lovable. Perhaps she needs to hear she's desirable. Perhaps she just needs to hear you give a fuck. Because half the time we look for everyone to meet every single emotional need of ours because we're not willing to do that body of work and go meet ourselves. And perhaps that version of you just wants you to not be perfect in how you're showing up for her. She just wants you there. She just wants to meet you and sit in that with you and allow for whatever comes up to comes up. And then once you've done that, you release it. That whole process is what processes it, right? And releases it. And you release it from your emotional field, and it leaves your body, and it just on that level and depth never, ever, ever comes back again. It is the most profound thing. I'm going to give you some examples in a second. There's just a couple of other points I want to drill into. One, can you imagine the relationship that you develop with yourself when you do this process, when you do this body of work? And how do you do it, right? And I'm going to get to that in a second. But can you imagine that for me? Can you imagine if you're a parent, how beautifully you'll show up with your kids and be able to house big feelings, freedom of expression, hurt, when they're uncomfortable, instead of jumping in and fixing it, how you'll be able to house it, how much less pressure you might put on them, how much more accepting you'll be of them, how much more joy you'll gain from it. Once you do this body of work, you become your own best friend. You learn so much about yourself. Everything kind of flourishes from the inside out because that process tells you exactly what you need, exactly what you were lacking. And in doing so, that's how you show up with your kids. It is not why I started this body of work. I started it because I was rock bottom and burnt out, and I had nowhere kind of to go. And I got to a certain point in my journey that then led to inner child healing. It was just so absolutely phenomenal. But the most unsuspected byproduct of that is that the type of mother I am and how I can show up for my children and how much joy that now brings me because it's no longer hard. It's been phenomenal. Can you imagine when you have a friend or a relationship that sits there that's going through it, how you'll be able to meet them? It is just inner child healing is this magical piece of work where I always say to my clients, that permission you're looking for, it lies in inner child healing. That validation you're looking for from everyone out there before you do the thing or before you do it fully, it lies in inner child healing. That freedom of expression you're looking for and then to be praised after you've done it, inner child healing. That approval, that love you seek in every single person around you, maybe you, inner child healing. That want to be shown that you're worthy, inner child healing. And you can never, ever, ever meet anyone to the level that you haven't met yourself at. And once you start discovering that, it's quite profound. It's absolutely beautiful. How, Sharné, how do we do inner child healing? It's a combination and people do it differently. And the way that I do inner child healing is pretty bloody cool. So we kind of get your goal, we get your vision, we get exactly what it is you want. We then get exactly what your biggest kind of block is, your biggest pain point. And I have this really cool exercise. It takes about 40 minutes and we drill down into the core wound. Because the thing is, you don't have to, excuse my French, fuck around with 30 wounds, right? And it's not like you have to heal every single moment or experience. You drill down, you go into the core one. And when you have that core wound, you bring it out. And how you bring it out is obviously through some guided kind of questions where the person opposite me then sits down and writes, right? And writes a whole bunch of things so that they can kind of with their mind see what happened, what they wanted, what they needed, what they desired, what they got, what it meant for them that they got that, what it would have meant for them to get that. And then obviously emotionally and energetically, we've brought it all to the surface. And so then through a blend of guided breath work, energy healing, and meditation, I blend the three. I love a blend. We go in and we access that memory on such a deep level. That's what the breath work allows you to do, to drop in. And we release it. We feel it. We release it. We send it off with love, with compassion, with empathy, with understanding. But we release it and we never, ever feel it again. I want to share a quick story. I'll never forget, inner pain was something that I had known my whole life, my entire life. Inner pain was something that I was so incredibly familiar with, and obviously kind of knowing what I know now, it was also something I was probably very comfortable with, because as uncomfortable as it was such a big part of me and it was so known to me that I had this inner pain and it was painful. And I won't even go into how sorry I used to feel for myself. That victim mentality just, it serves you obviously beautifully for a reason, but then after that, you just let that go because empowerment lies on the other side and everything you want and desires lies on that other side of victimhood. But anyway, I'll never ever forget I had done with my coach who absolutely opened my eyes to the world of inner child healing and energy work. And one day I showed up to a coaching session with her and I said to her, holy shit, no matter what I do, I can't get back into that place of pain. And she's like, what? What do you mean? What are you trying to do to get into it? I said to her, no, when I feel like I need to be sad, I get a bottle of wine, I sit down, I feel sorry for myself. There's a place inside of me that I can access and I can't get there. And she goes, Sharné, you're here to heal it. We've been healing it. The reason you can't get there is because you've done just that. It's not there. And so this is the message with inner child healing. Those really, really deep pains, once you've healed it, once you've released it, it's not there. And perhaps someone ought to have warned me beforehand because perhaps not. It all worked out beautifully exactly as it had to. But it came as quite a shock to me. That took me through a bit of a mourning process because I might have taken what I was doing a bit more seriously had I known this part that was with me for so long. I still would have let that part go, but I might have just said goodbye a little bit, more intentionally. So it's just phenomenal. And so inner child healing is just the greatest gift that you can give to yourself because, you feel so whole, so certain, so happy, so joyful. So you're your own best friend, really, really. And so obviously when that's your minimum standard, that's the minimum standard that you're accounting your entire life for, all your relationships, all your careers or clients, if you own your own business, like everything, then that's the bar. So you can see how this elevates you up in every absolutely category. But for those that's a bit more in the mind, like I was when I started, I wanted to show you how, obviously the methodology that I work with at Grow and Expand with S is that 4-step signature methodology, which is vision and envisioning. And then you release emotionally what no longer serves you through healing and inner healing. You rewire your mind to think like the person that brings the vision in. And then because of that, you sort of act and embody it physically and energetically. And then you become the version, you've created the life, you've claimed it, and you also attract the opportunities. I want to share with you why I can sit here today. It's inner child healing in action. I'm going to give you the example. Why I can sit here today and shoot this podcast and share these messages. And for the next 52 weeks, there will be an episode each week that comes out. And the wisdoms and the knowledge and the tools and the techniques and the ability that I now have, I have had for about 3.5 fucking years. Right? I'm probably more on the level of actually telling people how to scale their businesses on an energetic level. But my deepest passion has always been helping people through that rock bottom piece, because rock bottom was where it started for me. I didn't really, at that stage, I was so fucked. I didn't really care about the career. I was like, I'm hanging on for dear life. And that's who I wanted to help. But no matter how much I had helped myself, and no matter how much I knew the answers, I couldn't speak freely and openly about it. I couldn't do it. And this is where the inner child healing comes in so phenomenally powerfully. And this is why, that body of work can change your life if you will allow it. So it was about November last year, and it had dropped in for me that I just feel the time has come for me to share everything that I know, so that anyone who is going through overwhelm, crippling anxiety, critical self-talk like they're serial killers when they're just human beings, not good enoughs, not worthies, inner pain, sadness, disconnect, addictions, the time has come to teach what I know and what has profoundly changed my life. And then I couldn't. Like always, I freeze up. I play small. I dilute it down. I don't want to go too big. And I had to do the exact same methodology that I teach all of my clients and take everyone through on this really big kind of scale. So for this, I knew I didn't want to write a book. I knew I wanted to do it in podcast formats because I also want to get guests in to come and join because, knowledge is power. And I had to do the inner child healing work as my start one. So I had the vision I could see, sense, feel, write it down. Who did I have to be? I did all of that work. And obviously the number one area of calling your own bullshit is the fear you feel inside, the petrified. And I wasn't petrified for anything other than what would happen to me as a person. And so I go, okay, I have to go into this wound and I've got to find the origin. And I did the whole process with myself. And not surprising, as a child who grew up in a very abusive, very turbulent home with a narcissistic father, I've always been someone who speaked up. I could always see a bit deeper. I could always see a little bit more. I always seemed to hold people accountable to a higher standard, the standard I know exists in them, and I know it exists, and how I know, I don't know, but I know. And I was openly speaking out about that because, in my mind, that means you love the person because you want them to thrive. You want them to be better. You want it to be better for you. You want it to be better for everyone. But you can imagine when you're an outspoken child with a father like that, the absolute persecution that follows every time you open your mouth and express your wisdom, express your inner beliefs of what truth is, express your desires. Here's what happens when it doesn't align with him and his version, and of course in his fragile, like anyone who is narcissistic underneath is extremely fragile. And so to protect that, if anything contradicts the message he wants to hear, it is rage, pure rage. Physical punishment, strangulation. I'll never forget a couple of times, you got to laugh about it now because I've done the inner healing, like I'm running around the house and he's chasing me, and he was a big man, and he's running around chasing me, and I'm thinking I'm fucked if he catches me. So I have to run, right? And moments where he would run towards me with the death look in his eyes, and I would have to crouch down, arms over my head, and go, sorry, right? And then, ironically, I reckon most damaging of them all, not I reckon, I know, as I got older and clocked onto physical abuse, and obviously he would know I did because I spoke out about it, but no one was aware of like kind of coercive control and emotional control and all that type of thing. Like back then when I was a kid, the physical side stopped unless it was really bad in his perspective, I suppose, but it was very few and far between with me as his daughter anyway. But he would send me to the bathroom cubicle every time I spoke out, every time I spoke my mind, every time I spoke my truth, every time I demanded better, every time I reminded him of his potential and what was right and what was wrong. And I'm not saying I was always right. I'm not saying I was always speaking truth. And I'm surely not saying that I always did it in a beautiful, diplomatic way that didn't offend anyone. I'm saying I was a beautiful, wonderful woman, girl, who expressed and had reason to express, and that was met with unsafety. And I would be sent to the toilet, like a cubicle with a toilet. I had to sit there as punishment while my little sister kept running around the house playing with her littlest pets, and while my brother was playing guitar and laughing with my dad, and while mum was still making the lunch, and while they would eat the Sunday lunch or the Saturday lunch, because this obviously mostly happens on weekends, right? Because he's home, he's drinking, it's turbulent times. I'm sitting in this cubicle. I'm not allowed to take a book. I'm not allowed to take my doona or my pillow. I have to sit there for hours and hours on end. After lunch, he'd have drunk so much, he goes and he sleeps. Mum's like, just come out while he's sleeping. I'm like, there's no way I'm coming out. I am scared. And so anyways, I went in very depth now, but I know that so many of you will be able to resonate, and I'm telling you the answers lies in those experiences. The answer for why I was so shit scared to express how I was feeling, what I've learned, the tools I have, the methodologies I've developed, the techniques that has been life-changing. I know it can help so many people. Why couldn't I open up my throat and speak it out? Well, now you know. 2 sessions, 2 inner child healing sessions, where I breath work, guided meditation, energy healing. I'm a qualified Reiki energy healing practitioner, but I do that combined with spirit anyway, so it's a bit of a mix. 2 sessions. And I was ready. And here I am. And here you are. And so inner child healing is life-changing, totally transformative. On the other side of your biggest vision, right? Just look to your biggest wound, I'd say. There'd be something like your biggest vision will be one of those biggest wounds. And just on the other side of showing up for that girl or boy, man, woman, whatever, just on the other side of meeting that person and giving them what they needed at the time, healing that and processing that and feeling that and releasing it with love and compassion for everyone involved, by the way. I have never loved my dad more because I've never understood him more, because I've looked at my shadows and I've never understood that better. Do not condone a single thing he pretty much did. Have a lot of empathy and understanding for it, knowing his upbringing as well. And so just on the other side of all those things that your heart deeply desires, particularly if it's love, acceptance, lies that inner child healing piece. And I'm so grateful that you joined us today. And thank you so much for the honor and the opportunity to share with you everything it is that I know about inner child healing. And please make sure, if this has resonated with you, that you hit the like, that you hit the subscribe. The more people that like it, the more we say, do the subscription, the more people will get visibility of it. And every single person in this world will benefit from inner child healing. So thanks for co-creating all of that with me. And I hope you have the most beautiful week ahead, and that you will be able to take nuggets from this, and you will be able to start your own journey of inner child healing in those pockets that are going to mean the most to you. Thank you so much for joining me. All my love.